Tonight, when the sun goes down, you are going to do something your ancient ancestors never could. You are going to turn on a light, and the moment you do, something very old inside you will relax. But here is what nobody tells you. The dark was not the enemy. The dark was the classroom. For almost all of human history, night was not a problem to solve. It was a world to enter. And what your ancestors did inside that world reshapes everything you think you know about sleep, about dreaming, about the social life of the human mind. Go back 300,000 years. Your ancestor is a member of a small group, probably 15 to 30 people, somewhere in sub-Saharan Africa. The sun has set. There is no electricity. There is no blue light from a screen. There is no ceiling above them and no walls around them. There is only the fire, and that fire changes everything. Anthropologist Polly Wiessner spent decades studying the Yu/Hwansi people of the Kalahari, one of the last hunter-gatherer societies on Earth. She wanted to understand what people actually talk about and when. So she recorded thousands of conversations, day and night, and cataloged them. What she found was striking. During the day, about 60% of conversation was practical. Where is the game? Who gathered what? Who owes whom? The social bookkeeping of survival. But at night, around the fire, something flipped. Over 80% of nighttime conversation was stories, not gossip, not logistics, stories. Stories about people who were not present, stories about distant places, stories about things that had happened long ago or that might happen someday. Stories that required the listener to imagine, to inhabit another mind, to feel something for someone who was not there. Wiessner's conclusion was not a small one. She argued that firelight conversation was the incubator of human imagination. The fire extended the social day into the dark, and in that extended dark, the human mind learned to do something no other animal does at the same scale. It learned to live inside a story. Think about what that requires. To follow a story told in the dark, you cannot rely on gesture or facial expression. You have to listen. You have to build the scene inside your own head. You have to keep track of characters, motivations, consequences. You are, in other words, running a simulation. And that simulation, run night after night for hundreds of thousands of years, may have been one of the primary drivers of what neuroscientists call theory of mind. The ability to model what another person knows, feels, and wants. But the night was not only social, it was also biological in ways that science is only beginning to fully map. Historian Roger Ekirch spent over 20 years researching the history of sleep. His book, published in 2001, revealed something that had been almost completely forgotten. For most of human history, people did not sleep in one long, unbroken block. They slept in two separate phases, with a period of wakefulness in the middle. The first sleep began shortly after dark. It lasted roughly 4 hours. Then people woke up. Not because something startled them, not because they were cold. They simply woke, naturally, in the middle of the night, and remained awake for an hour or two. Ekirch found references to this pattern in hundreds of historical documents, medical texts, court records, and personal diaries, stretching back through medieval Europe, ancient Rome, and indigenous cultures across the world. The period between the first and second sleep had a name. People called it the watch, or the wakening. And what happened during the watch is remarkable. People prayed, people had sex, people thought. Ekirch found that the middle of the night was when many people reported their most vivid mental states. Dreams were analyzed immediately upon waking from the first sleep, while they were still fresh, still emotionally charged. The dark and the quiet created a condition that modern neuroscience would recognize as a hypnagogic state. A boundary between sleep and waking where the mind becomes unusually fluid, creative, and emotionally open. There is a theory developed by sleep researcher Thomas Wehr at the National Institute of Mental Health that the modern insistence on a single consolidated sleep block may itself be a source of stress. Wehr ran an experiment in which he removed artificial light from subjects' lives for several weeks, extending their dark period to 14 hours a night. Within weeks, without being told to, they began sleeping in two phases, and they reported a new mental state during the wakefulness between them, a state of peaceful, floating alertness, a mental quality that had no modern name. What your ancestor experienced in the middle of the night, lying awake in the dark with the fire dying low, was not insomnia. It was a feature, not a bug. It was the mind doing something specific, something restorative that